Hey, welcome to a special Hallows Eve edition of Shattermare Live.
That's right.
Uh,
It's Devil's Night, folks, and we are joined by our current host, Kyle Hill, the author of the great Hardly Heroes. So if you have not picked that up, definitely do that. Go to shattermarecomics.com. You can get issues 1 through 9 right now, or trade paperbacks if you want. It's
Man,
already.
maybe you should be host. And joined by, as always, William here, creator of the Mercenary Guild.
That's right. William J. Headline. The J is for Justin, for those of you who might wonder.
The J is
But
silent. Its
that guy,
headline starts with a J, like
yeah,
jalapeno.
that Justin Bieber really fucking hurt us, didn't he? He really hurt the Justins of the world. But good for him, whatever. Uh, Good kid, whatever. Uh,
So
and yeah,
tonight we're going to be getting into some mischief a little bit. We're not going to go on too long tonight, but we're going to be focusing on some more Halloween related topics here. It's come to my
yeah, I
attention
mean,
that William here is an aficionado of horror movies.
of old school horror movies, yes, I'm wearing my wizard hat, but it's hard to wear a hat with cans on, and I look like shit. Sorry, folks, but this is what you get. My wizard hat. There you go. All right. So
So,
Halloween is a very special holiday for a lot of people, especially some of us who got some Irish in us. Anybody got any Irish in you? So I'd say
I'm sure there's some in there somewhere. I'm not
you
a
got some
genealogy
Irish in
expert,
you,
but
Kyle. Really?
I might have some. I mean, I know I've got some British of some sort, and I got some Scandinavian. I mean, like one of my, I definitely got some Viking in me. I have an
Well,
ancestor whose
you
name was
got Viking in
Thorkill.
you, then
So,
you know that the Vikings built the city of Dublin in 800 AD, and it was the Celts that actually kicked them out later on. So most people of Irish or Germanic or whatever descent are actually from Norse blood.
well, there you go.
And there you go. So you always learn something on this stream.
That's right. I mean, I'm no ginger, but
Pretty close. I'm pretty freaking. I go out in the sun and just burst into fire, and I drive a black car with black interiors. So when it's 110 outside, it's like, okay, I'm gonna catch fire. I better not get gas on the way home, because if I get any on my hands,
it'll ignite.
it's fucking curtains for me. But anyways,
Oh,
Halloween.
I got a question. You're a big Halloween movie person. Do obviously you we're working on comics here, so I was wondering if you after you finish your point before I rudely interrupted you, uh,
Think
do
I have
you
one.
get into horror comics at all?
Oh yeah, I mean, I used to read uh, Dracula and Weird War. So Weird War had some stuff. I mean, there were there were really no dedicated horror comics in the '80s that I remember, because everything was fire as far as Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Flash, Batman. So I mean, the '80s was like the superhero. It really was the superhero creme de la creme. You had Secret Wars, the best event in comics history at Marvel. All this stuff happened. Green Arrow, the Longbow Hunters, and so horror was kind of reserved. I used to get Fangoria magazine, and so Fangoria was kind of previews and interviews and things that before the internet you could get for certain horror movies that were coming up, like Evil Dead 2. You got to see
Ooh.
exclusive pictures and interviews and things like that, makeup and what have you, from that magazine. And so it really was like the if you were looking for previews of like upcoming horror anything, cons or whatever, Fangoria had you covered, and that
And that
was
was back before DVDs, so you didn't have like the extra scenes and behind the
right,
scenes stuff like when you used to. So
right,
there you go. That's how you get it.
yeah. And so that's kind of what kept horror movies. And so we used to get that and just crack up at the pictures, some of the stuff. It was just great. And I don't know, as far as horror comics, I mean, even Blade was because I stopped collecting in the 90s, and apparently Blade became popular in the Spider-Man animated show. I never really got Blade comics in those days. I don't even remember seeing them in those days. He was great in the 70s. I just don't remember seeing a Blade comic on the shelves at my local store. Maybe I just wasn't looking for it.
Is Blade considered horror more? I know it's obviously like vampires,
To
Vampire
me,
Hunter. You
Blade,
know,
that's actually a good discussion because many people, I just had this discussion a week and a half ago. Is Blade a horror movie or is it a superhero movie? To me, it's a horror movie. I, I, I don't care. It really is. It's vampires and it's not as some people would say cape shit. And you know what I mean? Like there's and
everybody's got their pet peeves. You know,
yeah, it's some people say, "Oh, that's cape shit." Well, Blade isn't that. Neither, there's a Werewolf by Night. I mean, again, that one was a little before my time, but there weren't a lot of horror comics issued in the 80s that in the 70s you had Dracula and you had stuff like that, but I didn't have my own money in the 70s. It was allowance or what mommy would buy me on the way out of the
and she's not buying you any horror comics, huh?
yeah, sure as hell wouldn't buy me something with some gothic horror or something like that. So really for me it was really superhero comics, every time I could I found like a cool weird war comic where the blood boat's coming for you and you can look it up, and they rescue a guy from the water but he turns out to be a vampire, and it's cool stuff, man. It's very straightforward, but
Now, in
you know,
regards to Blade, I wouldn't say necessarily just because something has vampires makes it horror related. I mean, we could always use the example of Twilight.
well, I really think he was reserved for that element. um Obviously Spider-Man had Morbius and things like that, villains like that. But I just really think Blade and Ghost Rider were kind of made for. I guess Ghost Rider could be considered a lot of the stuff he went against, and he did. I just never really got into Ghost Rider early on. But yeah, I guess those could be considered horror based comics. I don't know. I consider Blade, at least my introduction to Blade was really the film, because I didn't watch a
Yeah,
lot
I
of that
think with
Spider-Man
most people that
animated
probably would be
series
true.
because he could never punch anybody. Uh, so Spider-Man hits people, hits and kicks them, and he could never do that in any animated feature I've seen. So, okay, so I just never really watched it, and and I was in college, so you're not gonna get laid watching that in the fraternity house. Girls come in, you're watching Spider Man or X Men, animated series. The fucking ovaries dry up real quick. You know,
But now the horror movies, on the other hand,
I've met so many women who are just into horror. I don't know why, and they know their shit, man. They know it and they dig it. And then there's some that just can't handle it, and it's the same thing with guys. I know a lot of guys who just want nothing to do with it. I look at certain genres of horror. What got me into it was really monsters. Okay, so it was the Universal monsters at first, which my parents allowed me to see some of Frankenstein and
Oh
Dracula
yeah.
and all that stuff. And that was safe, and Wolfman and all that stuff. And a lot of cartoons were also marketing that. We even had cereals that marketed,
Scooby Doo.
Frankenberry, Count Chocula. We even had there was a Sesame Street character who's a vampire who counts shit, you know.
Oh yeah, the Count.
And so monsters, and so I got into stuff, even like Godzilla, King Kong, and like I love the whole monster whole thing, you know, side of it. And that's kind of what got me into Star Wars over Star Trek was the cantina scene from the bar, because I see like Hammerhead guy and all these different just
Huh.
weird looking stuff, which Star Wars has not gotten back to. They want to be diverse, but they're just diversity of humans. I want to see Hammerhead guy or another Wookiee besides Chewbacca, or I want to see different.
I mean, you can watch the Christmas special.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
got a whole family of Wookiees.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that was great. Some of the great music in that. So I guess Monsters was the thing that kind of got me into it, and then I just started watching them early. I mean, I think one of the first things, God, because my parents didn't give a fuck, right? So I saw an edited version of The Exorcist when I was like 8, and that was really fucked up,
Oh
man.
man. Explains a
Don't
lot.
do that. Just don't do it, man. If you're like,
My brother saw it when he was like a little kid. So
yeah, the
never
Sci-Fi
see clowns the
Channel,
same, huh?
or the was it the Sci-Fi Channel it, or the
I think it was the
made
original.
for TV it with Tim Curry?
It was whatever the original one was,
Okay, yeah, it's Tim.
and I used to watch Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that was a Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side was a. For those of us who couldn't afford HBO, they made Tales from the Dark Side, which was like Econo Tales from the Crypt, which was still pretty good at times, you know. But then I saw Salem's Lot, Toby Hooper's Salem's Lot. It was on. It was a made for TV type of thing. They just remade it again. They're on the second remake of Salem's Lot, and from what I heard, it's not that great. Just stick with Toby Hooper's from the '70s. It's not gory or anything, but boy, there is some creepy shit, man, with the kid knocking on the window and like just imagery that only a great director can create, and it's just they just can't recreate the magic that was. And that was another movie that really just inspired me. And then I started playing D&D a few years later, and me and my DM were like, why can't we have a horror themed role playing game? And I get home and I'm looking through the monster manual. I say, we already have it. Let's just use werewolves and vampires and whatever instead of orcs and all this other stuff. Let's just
Yeah.
use these. This is before Ravenloft was
Well, you just
created.
tweak a few, homebrewed um, rules, and you got like what Call of Cthulhu, right?
Yeah.
Where you can go batshit insane from whatever you crazy, monstrosity you saw.
My DM recreated Salem's Lot. He created the Marston house that we had to go into. It's like, oh God, I'm gonna go into this thing and
It's got to be like D&D like 1, where it's like you hit once and you're dead. Now it's a horror movie.
Well, the thing is,
That really, like, just playing D&D 1, you feel like it's a horror movie. You're
it sucks.
you're like, do you want to open that door? Yes. Are you sure you want to open that door?
Let's have a thief check it. Yeah.
And he's dead.
But here's the thing about undead in D&D 1 that people don't realize is that every time they successfully hit you, they drain one full level from you. And the only way you can get that level back is just to grind through more experience points. So if you're eighth level going against a vampire, he can hit you like 2 or 3 times, and now you're fifth level. It's like, oh,
It's
fuck
crazy.
this. It just sucks, man. There's no restoration or some sort of spell to restore you or some sort of like energy. I think they fixed that. That's why so many people are like, yeah, let's go fight the dragon instead of the vampire because we don't
Mm.
want to lose our experience.
Matches like the video games from back then. Like those older video games, they're not forgiving. There's like, you're dead. Okay, well, you're starting over from the very beginning of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just how it
They keep
was.
making things easier and easier.
Yeah.
Not to go off on a tangent,
No,
but
that's
now it's like, you play a shooting game and it's like you just kind of hide behind a wall for 5 seconds and you're fully healed.
yeah. Or an MMO
Um,
or anything like that. It's like you're fully healed. All right, keep going.
yeah, the D&D 1, it's like with the 10-foot pole was like the best item in the game, right? Because
Yeah.
you could basically be safe from any trap, and everything was booby
Well,
trapped.
because thieves were dog shit until they hit like eighth level. I mean, like their chances to find a trap were like 35%. It's like we.
Chance of survival low.
They can't hit anything. I mean, they were like the most. I always played thieves too. It sucked, man. I died all the time. They were always halflings because I wanted to be Bilbo.
Aw.
Yeah, I wanted to do my Hobbit thief or halfling thief, and I did it, and it just never worked out very well for me.
I've been playing a campaign now for like, man, I don't even know how long. It's 8 years maybe,
Wow.
and I don't. I honestly feel like if I have running any, it's been very few and far between. Like, don't see halflings very often in my campaign, and no one ever chooses to play halflings. Like, very few halflings.
I played a halfling wizard in fourth edition, and the symbiosis is incredible. Holy God, man! I was on fire, man. If you ever look at fourth edition rules, halflings and wizards, they go hand in hand, man. It's unbelievable.
Really?
Especially
Huh.
shit like expeditious retreat and stuff like that. The extra things you can do just for being a halfling, and yeah, it's crazy.
Because I feel like most people I know play, they either do 5 or they do 3.5.
Yeah, I tried four at a gaming store for a while, and I got to the point where I didn't like it, but I have all the books. Yeah, it was too much combat, Matt. It was too much combat, like shift this to here, and it was ridiculous. And you get arguments at the table. Well, shift him here so then I can do this. But then if you shift him here, then I won't be able to do this. And then you'd have 10-minute arguments of where somebody should shift an enemy at. And it was ridiculous. It got to the point where it was like unmanageable at third or fourth level, where third edition kind of became unmanageable around 16th. That's where the cracks really started to show. And fifth edition, I'm not quite sure because I haven't played too much. I have the books, but I just haven't gotten into groups where I played beyond fourth or fifth level. It seems pretty solid though.
Yeah, I mean, they all in every edition's gonna have at least some weaknesses to it.
Yeah,
But
and I think that's what they're doing with this new edition of D&D is they're going to have, so you buy your books, but you really need a subscription to the site because they're going to keep updating it with errata for all the stuff that's broken. So I'm serious.
They
Yeah,
gotta have a way to keep making money off you.
exactly. And it's just like
How can we
microtrans.
monetize this? How can we monetize this? How can we monetize this?
Like they said, you can get a feed every time, right? Or every once in a while. But one of the feeds is your ability score increase. So that hasn't really changed. You know what I mean? Like at, let's say, fourth level, you can either choose a feat or your ability
Yeah,
score.
ASI.
Right. Well, I would probably choose my ability score increase. So,
God, that's boring.
okay.
I
Yeah, but
always go with feats because feats are
getting your
just more fun.
abilities to 20 is key, man. Or maybe I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, I mean, a lot of times it's the smart thing to do. I just always do the feats. I feel like the feats are more fun. If you're like not a spellcaster, and you can take warlock invocation and do whatever. I mean, ideally, you try and make it make sense with your character, and why
It's
does your
like
character suddenly know how to,
ability score.
cast minor illusion? Okay, well, let me explain to you.
Well, I always look at if you have a feat that increases your ability score, that's boss. You know what I mean? It gives you a feat and gives your
Yeah,
constitution or your strength or your intelligence a buff. That's
yeah, that's the optimal thing is when you have like an odd numbered ability score and you
yeah,
take a feat that also bumps it up to because the even numbers are getting each even number is when you actually get like your modifier bumped up and everything.
yeah, that's awesome. But I usually just try to get my if I'm playing, let's say, a fighter, I start at 16. I try to get everything to 20 as soon as I can, so my two hits very high, my saving throws are good, blah blah blah, and then I can start taking feats and what have you. Or if I'm an Eldritch Knight, then I can throw some shit in intelligence just to pump that up a little bit later on. But you know, but anyways, let's get back to Halloween stuff. So, are you a Halloween? Do you enjoy the holiday, or do you hand out treats? Do you dress up? Do you?
Nobody trick or treats in my neighborhoods that I live in and or have lived in for like the past. I don't, man. I feel like in my entire life, I feel like I rarely ever have trick or treaters come by. My
Really?
neighborhood now, I think they don't even. I don't even allow trick or treating.
I get over 100. It'll
Really?
be up and down. Seriously, I live across the street from an elementary school.
Oh well, there you go.
I've had up to 150 kids, but I'll probably hit around 80 tomorrow. I have to buy bags. I get candy and then pretzels that Costco has these bags of pretzels. They're actually really
Yeah,
good. And so you can hand out a little bag of pretzels. So I usually
you're
get a
gonna have to
kid
go.
bag of pretzels. So if you have diabetes or something, you still get some
That's nice.
or whatever. Yeah. And they're actually fresh. I mean, I eat them myself. I just had two bags. So I mean, they're not bad. But
You're
yeah,
gonna have to go to the store and make sure you have enough razor blades.
yeah, right. I tell you though, you buy a sack of candy now, you can tell that the portions are much smaller than what they were back in 10 years ago. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
shrinkflation.
Yeah. It's like here's a Snickers and it's like, a square. Like there's no rectangle to it. It's just a square of candy.
I remember going trick or treating once, and this lady she had her dog on the porch with her, and she had a bag of candy, and then she also had dog treats, and she accidentally gave us the dog treats. So like we're going through our candy den tonight, and we had fucking dog biscuit in our Halloween bucket.
Did
It's all
you
right. No, all right, it's hard. It's hard to finish all those. I mean, you get a lot of candy.
Yeah,
later on in the night, like people they don't want to hang on to all their candy. They're like, take a fistful, I don't care, you know.
that's how I am. Yeah, and we get the people who fucking drive to my neighborhood to
Oh,
get.
there you go.
I mean,
You
seriously,
must
we
be at
get
a
who are like
legit
nowhere.
candy
Yeah,
neighborhood.
teenagers from high school just driving to the neighborhood. Hey, give me what you know. And it's like, what's your costume? And they're in like overalls or something. It's like I'm Farmer Fred it's like fuck you. You know, here you go. Just don't gaslight me. You didn't even dress up. I mean, that's one of the
You
things I
don't get
actually
shit.
enjoy seeing is like, what is the trend right now? Like, is it Star Wars? Is it For a long time, it was Marvel. I'd see all these Captain Americas and Iron Men and all that stuff.
But what the kids are going to dress as is going to be very different than what the adults are going to dress as. So I almost like to put in two different
Right,
categories.
but the kids, it really not like what are they into? And I'm not seeing Star Wars, and I'm not seeing Marvel as much anymore.
I don't know,
I
man.
know,
Skibbity toilet.
yeah.
I don't fucking like. I'm a little scared to peek into the mind of Gen Alpha.
You still see like ballerinas and princesses for girls, like they still do that, and the guys you still see like GI Joe and Army Man guy.
You might see, more boys dressed as princesses than you might normally.
I'm gonna look for that tomorrow.
It's gonna look like a convention with all
Then I'll get my
the
dog
maids
biscuit.
walking
It's like,
around.
you get a dog biscuit, motherfucker. Shit.
Oh man.
No,
I
I
don't
get a
know. I'm
lot
trying to think. I
of kids,
saw
man.
I was at Publix the other day and I saw a parade. I don't really know the context here, but it was a parade of children in Halloween costumes walking through Publix. Trying to remember, I saw a couple that were dressed as those weird like inflatable dinosaur costumes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those were
Yeah, I
really,
saw a couple dressed like that.
yeah. Those were big.
Some people just wearing like football player uniforms. Pretty generic stuff.
Yeah, it just
But
seems
report
like
back because I went out last weekend and I didn't see anybody wearing any costumes at the bars or anything. It was kind of weird.
like I said, if I see something Star Wars, it's like Darth Vader or something like that. It's not
Well, yeah,
any of the Disney crap. It's just
none of the reboots, or not
yeah,
reboots, but
or rejects.
yeah.
So it's yeah. So all these shows are out there. It's mean guys on YouTube hating on Disney. It's like, look, you got little kids who want nothing to do with this shit, and
The proof is in the pudding.
it's like, get with it, man.
Like someone dressing as who was that? The I don't even know the villain they kind of like foreshadowed in the first of the new like trilogy, and the second movie they just killed him and they didn't even really flesh out his character at
Oh,
all.
Darth Plague. What? Well, we thought he was going to be Darth Plagueis. It was what's his? Fuck, I can't remember his name.
The point is, no one's going to dress as him.
No, because he's not really a villain. He's nothing.
I mean, I can see girls dressing as Rey, but that's about it from the new movies, you know.
I have yet to see it, but in all my years, and again, I get average of 75 to 100 right around nowadays, and
But I guess if you're a girl and you want to dress as a Star Wars character, it's like you could dress as Leia, or you could get to play with a lightsaber.
no, I mean the only thing that was really popular was really the MCU, and you would get the Captain America and Iron Man. Those were hugely popular. Maybe a Spider Man here or there. Not too many Hulks or anything like that, but Thors or anything like that. But yeah, even
How
Black
many
Widow.
scary costumes? When I was a kid, I remember dressing up as like you have like a knife that has like fake blood on it, or a fake knife that has fake blood on it, or you're like the Grim Reaper, or scary stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I went as a Leatherface one year, had
Oh
the ink
man.
burned in my, you know. But anyway, so yeah, Halloween is a busy night for me. I'm in and out of the chair all the time. So
I mean, are you gonna be dressed up for anything? Are you gonna be
I'm
wearing your
just
wizard hat, or are you gonna be?
I got a cloak and a wizard hat, and that's pretty much my shaved Gandalf, I guess. Young Gandalf.
You're not a big are you big like a haunted? I mean, like, is your house like decked out in
I
decorations and all
used to
that?
do that. I haven't done it this year because I used to have fog. I have a fog machine and all that shit, strobes, but I think it's supposed to rain tomorrow, and that can really screw things up. So we'll see. But I just haven't had the opportunity to put lights in all the stuff I want. But I have boxes of Halloween decorations that I used to put up. It's just this year I'm just not as into it, to be honest, and I'm just really busy with other things, and it sucks. But I did grow my own pumpkins, and I
Oh
carved.
shit.
Yeah, I grew my own pumpkins. They weren't very big, but they're still carvable, and so I carved one last night, and I just got done carving one before I went on stream. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah,
You,
yeah, I
you got
grew
a you
my.
got a pumpkin you want to show off?
Nah. Again, they're
Not worthy.
smaller than a volleyball, probably, but they're something.
Hey,
And again, I'm not
you
really the
grew it. It probably
artist.
tastes really good.
Oh, they
Oh,
probably
here's a
will.
question: if you carving it and you spoon out all the pumpkin, are you eating it, or you just toss it in the trash?
I save the seeds so I can replant, and then you can roast those seeds with seasonings and eat those.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can eat pumpkin seeds. They're actually
or
good
the
for you.
filling. You can make a pumpkin pie or something.
They're an antifungal, so or an anti-parasitic. So you can, and there's certain recipes where you can put certain seasonings on them and just roast them in your oven at like 350 or something, and then eat them, just eat them, like sunflower seeds or something like that, and it's not bad. It's not bad. It's a nice snack.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
And I can replant some of the seeds next year. Here's the thing: is that I've tried to plant pumpkins numerous times, and every time I get a blossom, something eats it. Maybe it's a possum or a raccoon or a cat. I've just never
a
been
bird,
able to
maybe,
get pumpkins, huh?
maybe even like a bird.
Or a bird, yeah. And so when I started to get something, I would put them on crate. I'd put a wire mesh around them. That really wasn't that hard to get through, but I decided to give it a little bit protection, and it seemed to do the trick. Because it seems like American critters are just as lazy as Americans. Like, oh, I gotta go through that to get a
Fuck this
pumpkin.
shit.
Get it, and yeah, so it seemed to work. So I got something to grow, and I'm proud of it. I think I planted them late in March, and then I harvested them in August.
So this is the first harvest you've had in a while, then, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They weren't growing anymore or anything like that, so I just cut them, and now I'm going to use them as jack o' lantern. That was my goal, and I still got a couple more that really aren't jack o' lantern ready, but they could be pumpkin pie material for Thanksgiving. So there you
There
go.
you go. Well, we were talking earlier about the Halloween comics, or like the horror comics, and I feel like I had heard at some point that horror, and I think this is also kind of true for movies as well. Um, horror is like a very indie friendly genre. Because I know
Yeah.
a lot of the movies can be pretty like low budget and be successful kind of out of nowhere.
Well, I mean, we
I
just saw like Terrifier 3 come out and I'm not really. If you go to a Halloween store, the Terrifier clown is everywhere. So I'll probably see some of those costumes, and it's pretty graphic movies, folks. So if you don't have the stomach for them, don't. But this Terrifier series has made a ton of money for very little budget. The new one has just made something like 20 million, and they spent one or something on the thing. So horror has always been conducive to low budget. And if you look at the early days of cinema, and even probably even the early days of comics, horror has always lended itself to this. I mean, some of the early classics are Phantom of the Opera or Dracula or Frankenstein or something like that. And I think in comics there was a lot of horror, and then this whole parental thing came up in the 50s or 60s that kind of really censored comics, and I think it kind of killed the horror genre at that time as far as comics.
I'm uh, I'm looking at a list from some random website. I guess I should name the site just for the sake of giving credit. It's called Newsarama. I don't know if you're familiar with that site. I'm
Might be.
anyway. Well, gamesradar.com is showing this. But anyway, it's a list of the top 20 horror comics. So we'll see if you recognize any of these. Most of them, honestly, most of them are from the 2010s. Um, we've got The Man Who Came Down the Attic Stairs from
No.
2017. Doesn't sound familiar. Okay. Because I mean, you're more into comics than I am, to be honest with you,
Yeah, I was
and horror. So you'll recognize this stuff before I recognize this
there
stuff.
should be a few in there that I know, but
I think so. Yeah, there's at least one here that I recognize. Through the Woods. That's in 2014. I guess it's a collection of dark fairy tales.
I haven't read it.
Afterlife with Archie. So I guess it's like an Archie spinoff,
Probably Archie. Yeah,
probably.
was never into Archie comics. No offense,
And I
folks.
suppose they're leaving the Walking Dead. They're not having in the category of horror because I don't see the Walking Dead here. So I would assume that if they did have the Walking Dead as a horror thing, it would be here, considering how big that
Of
was.
course. Yeah, I mean that thing was in the top 10 for 17 years. Like every year it ran, it was in the top 10 every time it sold, as far as comic sales.
From what I hear, the conventions back when that was really big, it was just like half the people coming to the conventions were just people that were like, "Oh yeah, I was a zombie in the background of." They were just like filled with that kind of stuff. Um, we got a comic called The Witches with a Y, WYTCHES.
Not
That's
familiar
from
with
2014.
that.
So we're
Probably
getting
learned some.
another
Again, I'm
2010
not a
movie.
modern age, but there is one that really that'll probably stick out if it comes up, and it's something.
This
It's
one I
a
recognize.
novel that I let somebody borrow and I never got it back, and I just kick it myself.
I think this one you'll recognize. The Sandman,
Yeah,
Neil Gaiman.
Neo Gaiman. Yeah,
Gaiman, yeah, sorry.
Gaiman. I really still don't know how to pronounce it.
We got, obviously that one started a little bit older. Then we got another newer one, The Nice House on the Lake from 2021.
No, never heard of it.
Okay, we got Insects, spelled INSEXTS. So I'm really confused what this is about.
Yeah, Is that like a porno comic?
This was 2016. I guess it follows two women in Victorian London who create a family and try to
Man,
maintain their romantic relationship. So this is right up your alley.
fucking yeah, lesbians.
This is Williams' horror
These
movie or horror comic.
lesbians.
The main characters can turn into insect-like creatures. It's
God, it's something like
okay.
something that would come from the Rippaverse with his the Sosk sisters. Oh God, I'm sorry. It just came into my head. I have no filter.
This sounds interesting. Arkham
Sesame
Asylum.
spider comes out and some shit. I'm sorry, Kyle. I'm a horror.
No, you're good. You're good. There's a Batman universe comic on here. The Arkham Asylum, a serious house on Sirius Earth from 1989.
I might check that out. I never heard of that.
It says there's a riot underway at the mental facility that houses Batman's rogues gallery, and Batman is called in to quell the situation. He's drawn into a series of one-on-one confrontations with his most iconic adversaries. Interesting.
Well, do you know that Moon Knight started in a the character Moon Knight? His first appearance was in a werewolf, the Werewolf at Night or whatever comic.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that was his first appearance.
huh?
And so it was like Werewolf by Night. That was the. I think they made a Disney Plus show, not a show, but a movie that was actually really good, from what I heard. And I think they tried to reboot the comic. I don't know, but that was actually Moon Knight's first appearance was Werewolf by Night, if I'm not completely mistaken. And somebody in chat can definitely correct me.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
So next one we got here, These Savage Shores from 2018. We've got another 2020. There's a lot of these from the 2010s.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a victim of like recency bias or what that's all about. I guess it's like a vampire comic.
Again, recency is just the writing is terrible for most recent stuff. I mean, whether it's woke or not, I don't care if it's lesbians or whatever. I don't care, but I want good writing, and I haven't been seeing it in generally recent entertainment, except maybe the Penguin show or something like that.
Well,
But
perhaps some of these have good writing. Perhaps not, but perhaps they do. We got Harrow County from 2015. Harrow.
that is I think Harrow County is like an anti-Trump border thing. Like, if I'm not mistaken, it's either that or there's another one that was vampires from Texas.
That's not what this one
Not the
is,
first
but
issue.
I totally believe that.
If it's Harrow County, I think it is like an border message, and so I never.
Oh, it's like an allegory.
Yeah, allegory for open up the borders, you racist, type of thing.
We got okay. So this one I've definitely seen around. Something is killing the children.
Yeah, yeah.
I see that running
That
around a lot.
Lock and
That's
Key.
2019.
Yeah, that and you probably have Lock and Key on there as well. And I think they made a series of Lock and Key. I haven't seen it on Netflix. And from what I've read a few issues of each, and they're okay. They're okay. It's kind of gothic horror of creepy kids and shit like that.
Okay, I don't see Lock and Key down here.
Really?
No.
That's actually surprising.
I've got what Bitter Root,
Never heard
set in the 1920s during the Harlem Renaissance.
of it.
Okay, so this is
I'm
all
not even
right, moving on.
saying anything. I'm not saying shit, man. I'll get myself in trouble. I'm not saying
We've
anything.
got we've got The Plot from 2019.
God, all these are after 2015. It seems like God,
I know, right? It's weird.
just ridiculous. There's no way
Not
they're the
all of
best
them, but a
comics.
lot of them are. Maybe people, got really into Walking
No,
Dead
I
and
think they're
inspired a
just
lot of
trying to
people to try.
push modern comics, and it just none of this shit resonated. They're not
Probably.
making. I mean, the only thing is Lock and Key, and that's not even on your list for crying out loud. It's like
We
they need
got
a
The
shit.
Cat-Eyed Boy from 1967. So this one's going back. This is
Okay.
manga.
Oh, I don't know anything about old manga like that.
Yeah, horror manga from the 60s.
Oh, well, that's something to check out.
Some sort of like demonic Cheshire cat. Okay, interesting. The Drifting Classroom from 1972.
No, I haven't heard of that either. Who is that by?
I think this one is also Asian.
Oh, is it manga?
Well, it's at least Asian. I don't know if it's manga. I guess so. I guess it would be manga just by default. So I wonder if you would count like Battle Royale as being horror. I mean, some of the things we've talked about that I wouldn't intend. I wouldn't. I guess if you think like the Terminator is horror, like I would say that Battle Royale is. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
I'm
Um,
not that familiar with Battle Royale.
so they actually turned it into a movie at one point that starred Stone Cold Steve Austin,
Oh God, yeah.
which they didn't call Battle Royale, but that's basically the same thing. It's basically the same thing. But in the uh, in the manga, basically they have high schools that they randomly pick one high school class in the country every year, and they put them on an island and make them kill each other, basically, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be classified really as horror.
It's super violent and like graphic.
I mean, like Lord of the Flies, we all had to read that or I don't know if you did. I had to read it, and
Yeah,
I actually saw a film about it, black and white, back in the day. And to me, that's horror in a way,
yeah,
because it really delves into the dark side of human nature,
humanity.
and when you
Yeah,
leave people to their own devices. And there was a great line from a movie called The Mist, where the character Thomas Jane, whoever he was playing, said, "Hey, look, you told this lady, she was saying people are generally good." He goes, "Hey, if you shut the lights out and scare the fucking shit out of them, people will turn into their natural. You know what I mean? People will turn
yeah,
into something, and that's no lie. You scare the shit out of people, and it will. They will turn, or kids or something like that." Anyways, hold on a second.
so we got five left on this list.
Yeah, so when you look at something like Lord of the Flies, and I was saying, maybe Terminator is more sci-fi to some people or more action, but to me, Terminator was scary as fuck because this thing is just going to come after you, and it can't be killed, but you can shoot it with a shotgun. They did that. You can burn it. You can stick explosives up its ass. I mean, they did everything they could to this damn thing. It's just a tank, and it just comes after you and comes after you until
Yeah,
you are dead. It doesn't
not
follow
really
you.
any different than like Nemesis from like Resident Evil. Yeah, it's just like hunting you down.
It really. So to me, it was a horror movie, but it definitely blended sci-fi and action elements to it. But well, how scary would that be if you were the
Right.
guy that thing had to go after? And you're like, I got a 38 special. Uh, that's not gonna do. I got a baseball bat. I mean,
All right,
going.
let's we can finish out this top five, and then we can go into
Okay,
your area of expertise. We can talk about movies.
okay.
So we have number five is Victor Laval's Destroyer, which is from 2017 and is apparently a sci-fi personification of the fractured world in which we now live, and it's like a modern day continuation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Wow, that sounds familiar.
Well, I think you would appreciate
I
that.
would. I've seen. I have some issues of the monster later on in life, but they called him Adam, and I have to get him out to realize. Somebody at a comic shop actually recommended them to me, along with Hack and Slash. Which, if you haven't read Hack and Slash, they have some good. There's some good stuff there with the. Anyways, but no, I don't recognize this. This Frankenstein monster was in the world of Hellboy and used to box with Hellboy or something. It was really, he couldn't talk. His name was Adam, but he was smart and da da da, and it was another continuation. So, but yeah, I might check it out. I mean, it's
This one.
yeah.
Let me finish the description here. Okay. Let's see. A scientist who is a descendant of the family of Frankenstein, uses her ancestors' arcane practices to try and resurrect her son, a black young man who was murdered by police. As the original Frankenstein's monster enters the scenario, a contrast between how some people value his life versus that of a dead child becomes the heart of the story.
Well, we'll see. Again, I'm not going to say anything.
Uh,
But
all
I
right,
mean,
number four.
it's a take. It's a take, man. I can see where this list is going.
Number four is Black Hole. It's the best and worst of teenage angst. Okay. Especially when you get to the part of. of okay, let's see. It's about STDs. Moving on.
Oh, let
Number
me.
three.
Maybe I can learn something from the.
Talk
Jesus.
about something that's scary. All right. Number three is the autumnal. Follows a single mom and her daughter as they move
Here we
from
go. Single mom. I can just hear Brian.
as they move from
Here we
Chicago
go.
to New Hampshire. The
I just can't remember the name of the one I'd loaned out. It was just ridiculous. But
maybe
you
it's
got
two left.
like Coraline. You got so many good comic. Vault of Horror has tons of stuff. Hellboy. I mean, really, Hellboy has a lot of great horror plots. And from what I heard, the new movie isn't bad as far as the story. It's just the special effects. So if you can get past those, it's actually right from a comic, The Crooked Man, and it's really not that bad. But it's just that the look of it, it was low budget, and you can see that now. those of us who grew up in the '80s, we could see low budget.
You
Right?
can look past it,
We looked at the Terminator when he was in his skeleton and said, "Oh, that looks great." We was like, "Oh God, shit!" Or you're looking at Blade, in '99 and going, "Wow, this is terrible." I mean, it was terrible then. It's terrible now, but the story and the characters just if you can get past again bad stuff. I heard the new Hellboy really isn't that bad.
Okay, huh?
Yeah, and it is a horror again. Horror. He was a horror character, a lot like Blade and Ghost Rider. These are really horror, demon slayer. They're not dealing with street trash like Daredevil does or Spider Man or something like that. They're dealing with uh, supernatural horrors, vampires, werewolves,
Yeah.
demons, things like that. And definitely Hellboy has tons of issues that you can just. I can't believe there's not a Hellboy issue on there. It's absolutely ridiculous. And Coraline's not on there, which is another Neil Gaiman or Gaiman or Gaiman or whatever his name is creation. Which that movie was fantastic. Uh, anyways, but we can get on with the list. I
Oh
don't
no,
think
you're good.
there's much merit to this list, bro.
Number two is Gideon Falls, about a town who loses its Catholic priest, and the washed-up replacement needs faith as much as he's being relied on to provide. And the town falls into crisis because a dilapidated black barn appears out of nowhere. And apparently, there's like an urban legend about black barns materializing as a portent for bad times ahead. I mean, maybe that could be interesting.
Yeah, but there's even stuff
That's
like
from
Witchblade
2018.
or Constantine. Like a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
things are
Constantine.
horror based, and it just have you forgotten? I mean, Constantine's pretty popular. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it depends how certain things are, what bucket you put them in.
Yeah,
Number one is Uzumaki. So it is another Asian one from 1998.
yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of that. I have not read it.
It's
I've heard
about a town,
great
the
things.
inhabitants of a small town that become obsessed with the idea of spirals. And two unfazed teens can only watch in horror when that fascination turns into obsession as they're affected. Friends, neighbors, and family take the inexplicable pull of the spiral to horrific lengths, twisting up objects, animals, and even their own bodies into increasingly gruesome shapes.
No, I've heard
Yeah,
that's really good. I've heard that's good. Yeah, I have not
I
read
could see that.
it. Yeah. And then there's another comic that people can throw out there. I mean, outside of the Evil Dead or the Walking
Walking
Dead,
Dead, yeah.
there are Evil Dead comics as well. But I like Preacher. Preacher's a classic comic. It made into a TV show. It was okay. Definitely, yeah. Preacher's another horror themed comic, and it's definitely something you should look at. And definitely look into that show because what I saw from it, it was really good. I didn't see the whole thing. Um, I got a life at that point. It sucks. But yeah, I'm just trying to throw some stuff out there. But the one you just mentioned, I've heard nothing but good things about that. In fact, I put that on my list just now.
All right, so you got a couple on your list from that, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Which ones
yeah.
did you end up writing down out of curiosity?
Well, the first one you mentioned, the other ones we'll see. Yeah,
One of them had you in the first half.
yeah. I can't remember.
Had you in the first half, not gonna lie.
I'll review. I'll review.
All right, well, You can have the floor for movies.
Okay, well, I'm sure you've seen some vampire movies, so why don't we get to some of your top vampire movies, and I'll get to some of my top vampire movies.
Oh, you go first, by all means. I mean,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Well, I'm going to start right off the top with number one instead of number three because I don't like clickbait. Okay,
You won't believe number three.
so number one for me is a Halloween experience every year for 20 years, and it's 1985's Fright Night. I think it's the best damn vampire movie ever made with Chris Sarandon and blah blah blah. You can look it up. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Have to see it. It is Roddy McDowell. Um, it is the perfect like mesh of horror in 80s camp that you've ever had. And the thing is about camp in the 80s, they didn't, I don't think they tried for it. It
It
just
just kind of happened.
fucking happened. Yeah. It was like, you have Chris Sarandon with like this mouth and teeth going, "Who me? Please." Just overacting as fuck. And, and he's spitting out of his fucking mouth. It was hilarious, dude. You're laughing here. And then you got the chick with the huge mouth. Like, what the fuck, dude? It was wacky and cool, and the concept was brilliant. Where you have like a vampire living next door to you, and you know it, but nobody will believe you. And they
Okay.
made it in 2008, and it was just okay. The remake wasn't terrible. It had some really good people in it, but it just did not capture again the camp and the fun and the subtle humor, but it was all relatable. Like you had a guy who was a nerd who was never accepted, and like I can make you powerful. I can make. They'll never make fun of you again. Take my hand. What kid at 15 who was awkward wouldn't take that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, shit, make me a vampire. I can, and had all those elements in it. It was just so brilliantly done and acted. And again, the camp just happened. You can't make you can't make a cult classic. It just has to happen. You know what I mean? Like the Rocky Horror
Yeah.
Picture Show was
It's
actually,
lightning in a bottle.
yeah, the Rocky Horror Picture Show was supposed to be a legitimate movie based on a successful play, at least on the West Coast. The Rocky Horror Picture Show was very successful in LA and in the UK, and then they went to Broadway and were shut down in 2 weeks.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And then they made a movie out of it, and so all the actors from Rocky Horror Picture were in the movie. So for the director, it was the easiest job in the world. He just said, go. Put them in a house and go. They knew what to do. They knew the songs. They knew everything. And it was the hugest flop you ever want to see. People say, don't see this fucking movie. And then in the 80s, I went to go see it at midnight when everybody's high and shit and acting it out. And it was fun. It's like, it just became this thing.
Yeah. Or The Room is another one on that same token.
Yeah. Just one of those things. But yeah, Friday Night's definitely top of my vampire list. Second, geez, Lost Boys, very close second because that's filmed in my backyard, homie.
Oh yeah.
That is Lost Boys, and that is filmed in Santa Cruz, California. They call it Santa Carlita, but that is the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk you see in that movie. And a girl I went to high school with was an extra in that, Marcy Livermore. She was an extra in that movie.
Nice.
Yeah, she thought she was Meryl Streep after that, so it was like, no shit, dude. No shit. She thought she was fucking Meryl Streep. She wasn't that. I'll point her out to you. If we're ever hanging out, I'll point her out. You can see her like 2 times. You know, and that's just dancing, just dancing. You know, it's when the guy's playing the saxophone on the beach band, which they actually have. But yeah, that roller coaster, all that shit. I mean, we used to. I mean, again, Lost Boys, big time vampire flick. Again, campy as fuck. They didn't try for it, but it's fun as hell.
I think horror movies a lot of times just unintentionally become camp movies.
And then, so that's my second favorite vampire movie. Third one. Wow, that's the tough one. Knows how I'm going down because like it's Fright Nights right off the bat. Forget it. You know, Lost Boys. Forget it. This one, I don't know, man. It could be something like 30 Days of Night because I love that take in the comic. That boy, there's another horror comic that wasn't on the list.
Yeah, yeah.
30 Days of Night. Think of that concept. Like you have a place with food where the sun doesn't rise for a whole month. Why wouldn't vampires go there? Like,
That's a good point.
why not? That is a brilliant, one of the most brilliant concepts I've ever heard of. The film, I liked it. A lot of people don't. I have these friends, they hate Josh Hartnett so much. I don't get it. Why do you hate Josh Hartnett that much? What the fuck did this guy do? They hate him. It's like, oh, he's in Penny Dreadful. I'm not gonna watch it. It's like, what the fuck did he do to you? Did he wreck your car? Did he get you pregnant? You know, in high school? Like, what do to you, man? It's like, I don't know, but I have these friends. They just hate Josh Hartnett. I don't hate the fucking guy. And so 30 Days a Night is up there. Interview with a Vampire. I'm a huge Anne Rice fan, and I thought the Interview with a Vampire film really captured the book beat for beat, but there were casting problems I had with it. I didn't like Tom Cruise as Lestat. Just gonna put it out there. I didn't
Do you like him now?
No, I like Tom Cruise. He wasn't Lestat. He just
Oh, okay.
cried. He just wasn't. He should have had a French accent. Anyway, whatever. And Brad Pitt was wooden as fuck as Louis. I didn't get it. I did like Christian Slater, and I loved the guy Armand. Who's that actor? Antonio Banderas as Armand. So there were casting choices that really, really banged, and there were some that just didn't like it. But overall, I thought it was a really good, as a fan of the books, it was a beat for beat with the book. And like they did a very good adaptation of the actual novel in Interview with a Vampire. So I think those are a good top three. Top three, 3A, 3B. I don't know.
Okay.
How about you? What vampire movies come to your head when you?
Oh, there's only one answer to this question. It's Morbius.
Morbius, really?
No, I'm fucking with you.
And
I'm
it was from the comic. It was from
yeah. No, I'm not the person to ask this question. Because honestly, I think the last two
I'm sure
vampire movies that I The last two vampire movies I watched were probably comedies. Um,
Like Van Helsing.
uh, I have seen Van Helsing. It's been a while, but I
I actually
saw
don't hate that movie as much as I used to. It's actually great on me. I like it now. God.
I saw Renfield,
Renfield is a good film. Shit. That's a fun movie, man.
and yeah, maybe like a year ago. I think I saw that. Maybe 2 years ago. And then What We Do in the Shadows.
Okay, Dark Shadows?
What We Do in the Shadows.
Or What We Do in the Shadows?
Yeah, have you seen that before?
No, I have not
Oh,
seen.
that's really good. And they made it into a TV series too. But the movie, it's kind of like from the style. It's kind of like a mockumentary, sort of.
Fuck, I check that out. See, there you go. You just What We Do in the Shadows.
I would strongly recommend that. It's a good movie. What about outside of vampires? Or is vampires like your favorite? I mean, you said monsters were
They're
like
not my
your.
favorite. In fact, werewolf is my favorite for obvious reasons. If you know my main character.
Yeah. So
So,
werewolves,
okay, this is hard.
vampires,
All right,
just
werewolf.
general the monster subgenre of horror films
Of
is
course,
your
we have
go-to.
to. So, werewolf top three. Boy, this is hard. This is hard. This is hard between these two. But American Werewolf in London is just flat out balls, like brilliant. Like it's as perfect as a movie can get, in my opinion. With the comedy, the horror, the the special effects.
Hmm.
I mean, John Landis. I mean, and then he incorporated that stuff into like Michael Jackson's Thriller video with those practical effects. Everybody was ripping that off with the hand stretching and the whole American Women, and it had one of the sexiest women in it. Forget it, man. It American Werewolf,
Yeah.
and it's a normie choice, but it's a good choice. And then I'm gonna go
Okay.
with the Howling from the original eight with E.T.'s mom or whatever the fuck D. Wallace Stone or whatever the fuck. Brilliant, excellent, like a vampire cult type film. So it was kind of a different take. Like they're all a cult, they're all a part of
Hmm.
something. And then my third favorite would be Dog Soldiers.
Dog soldiers. Okay.
Dog Soldiers, which was made by the same guy who did The Descent. And it was about these British special forces out on maneuvers, and they end up having to deal with werewolves. And so it has a military and werewolf thing. So it's an action where it's really cool, and it's a different take on the whole werewolf genre that I never thought I'd see, and it was brilliantly done. I think it was one of his first films, if not his first. And then he went on to do The Descent and some other things, which was a really good film. And
I feel like there's definitely a lot more vampire movies than werewolf movies.
probably, probably, but there's a lot of really shitty werewolf movies too. It just,
Okay, so I want to ask you a question because I'm at IMDb.com looking at a list of movies, and you named number one, number three, and number four. So I want to know if you've heard of this one they have at number two.
what's that?
Ginger Snaps.
Oh boy, wow! I have a history of that movie. When I did
Yeah.
my site, I reviewed it, and I fucking trashed it, and I got fucking hate mail like you wouldn't believe. Oh, yeah, I did.
That was the one you got the death threats over,
So
huh?
the whole premise is that it's not about the full moon; it's about the menstrual cycle.
Oh
So,
man.
So when a woman's on her period, she turns into a werewolf. It was like, what the fuck, man? Shit.
So it's a true story then.
Yeah, pretty much. But Ginger Snaps, I thought was the most overrated film. I didn't hate it. Like I didn't shit on it. I just said it was overrated because when it came out, everybody said this is it. It just did not live up to any of the films I mentioned. Not even close. But holy shit, did I get blowback from that on my channel?
It was
Holy
probably the
shit
gingers
on
that
the
were
website.
sending you hate mail.
I had people just writing in posts, you fucking this and that, and da da da. It's like, really, I think it's really intelligent to relate the werewolf cycle to a woman's menstrual cycle. It's like, you really want, you, you really think that's empowering to women?
Was it intended to be empowering, or was it just like how we're gonna twist the genre to do something a little bit different? You
Okay,
know,
it's like it's that time of the month she's gonna grow fangs. At least with the moon, you know, it's like it's a full moon.
that's what
Take
makes it
a day
scary.
off, man. Take a sick day. Go be a
How you know it's
werewolf.
that time of the month she's turned into a werewolf?
Yeah, because we don't know when that time is. Unless she wants to post it on Facebook or something. So, anyways, Ginger Snaps never did it for me, but I didn't shit on it. I like the people in it, but boy, when I made fun of some of that shit, I got a lot of fucking hate for that. It was hilarious. I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
I felt like there might be a story there.
It's not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie. It just, I mean, it's a different take on werewolves that just didn't connect with me. That was basically my point. It just didn't connect with me. I thought the actor, I thought it was well written, well shot, well directed. It just didn't connect with me.
The premise was
Yeah,
just
the premise, and that's okay. I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just definitely not in my top three. But I would definitely say people like check it out and see if it's for you because a lot of people do like it. So definitely check it out for yourself. Don't go off my word. I don't want you to do that. Check it out. I checked it out. I didn't think it was bad. It just was very highly rated. Kind of like when House of a Thousand Corpses came out. It was very highly hyped and it wasn't as good. It didn't live up to that hype. That was kind of my point.
yeah.
Doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean you shouldn't watch it. Take it with a grain of salt. You might really like it. Cool. No problem. But to me, I
What
was just kind of cracking up. I was early MGTOW way before. So I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, so she's having her period. She's going to turn into a werewolf. Fuck that, man. I can't deal with that shit. I can track the moon. I can't track a woman's period. Like,
any what other before we get off here and shut down the stream for the night, what other horror movie or in general Halloween
well, I mean,
takes you want to get to?
I think Salem's Lot's up there. I think Exorcist. I definitely think Trick or Treat. It's Trick or Treat. That is one of the best horror Halloween movies ever made. It came out in 2008 and it was straight. It came out on video 2 years later. You know why they never released it in theaters? Because of the
Mm-hmm.
fucking Saw movies. They were afraid it would lose, so it sat on a shelf. They just start. It has Anna Paquin in it. It's got the guy who played Kirk Connors from the Raimi Spider-Man films. It's got Cox in it, who he was the I think the original. What's his name? Fuck, can't remember. Anyways, whatever. He was the original Hannibal Lecter in the first in the. There was a movie before Silence of the Lambs called Manhunter, and this guy named Brian Cox played Hannibal Lecter before
Okay.
Anthony Hopkins ever did. Then they remade it and called it Red Dragon. But
Okay.
in the 80s, there was in 86 there was a movie called Manhunter, and and Brian Cox played Hannibal Lecter, not the way Anthony Hopkins did, completely different. But anyways, he's in the film. It's a great Halloween. It's all vignettes in an Ohio town. Uh,
I'm watching a trailer for it right now on mute, and
it's awesome.
I noticed the little kid that I'm seeing in the trailer is the little
Well,
kid
he's
from
not
Bad
a kid.
Santa.
He's not a kid.
He's not.
He's something else, and you'll find out.
Oh, spoilers. Okay, well, um, it's the same kid that was in Bad Santa. That's I don't know if you've seen that movie before.
Yeah. Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. That kid. Yeah, he's in it too. Yeah, he's in it. And it has this again the guy who played Kirk Connors from uh, the Raimi Spider-Man movies, and he's this creepy. He's fucked up, dude. He's a fucked up individual. Everybody's kind of fucked up in this whole movie. That's what's funny about it, and it takes you on twists and turns and all these vignettes, but they all kind of intertwine. It's brilliant. It's fucking brilliant, but it was never released in theaters.
Huh.
So definitely check it out if you can stream it. I have it on DVD. I bought it for $25 when it came out. I paid full price. I didn't care. Had to have it. It was a movie I wanted to shit on, and it came up. It's like I love this fucking movie. Holy night!
Well, it's good. It means you go into it with an open mind.
And of
You know.
course, you have to watch the Charlie Brown Halloween special. You have to watch that,
Oh yeah.
huh?
I said, oh yeah.
Yeah, gotta watch Charlie Brown. And yeah, so that's kind of like my Halloween list. I mean, I got Fright Night, I got Trick or Treat, I got obviously the original Halloween movie. Got to watch that from '78.
Oh yeah. All of those like that subgenre, the killing, the stalker. You know.
Well, I mean, this was done before it became a joke, like the original Halloween. I mean, it became a joke with some of this other shit to the point where you're literally in theaters going, "Yeah, Jason killed another one" or something like that. It was like
You're like
Halloween.
rooting for the killer.
Yeah, they're rooting for him. Yeah, it's like kill that bitch, cut her fucking head off. You know, it's like yeah,
Yeah, because a lot of times in those movies, like nobody cares about the main characters. So at
no.
the end of the day, you're just like you end up rooting for like you know you came there to see Jason or whatever. So,
You know, it's funny because I was in a debate and I said the original Halloween is one of the most bloodless movies you'll ever see. There's hardly any blood, if any, in it. It
huh?
really is. It's not gory, and even with Texas Chainsaw, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre does not have blood in it. It is not gory at all. But you think they are with the way the media portrayed them. But if you actually watch the movie, the only blood in Texas Chainsaw is when Leatherface cuts his leg with a chainsaw. It's like a little cut through his jeans. That's it. That's the only blood in the whole fucking. Like nobody
That's
gets blood
interesting.
with a chainsaw.
Huh?
Now they do have lampshades made of skin and the things right. Well, I mean Hollywood props, what have you. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's there's nobody getting cut in half with a chainsaw. You're not going to see that in Toby Hooper's Texas Chainsaw. You're not going to see it. You're not going to see Michael Myers cut somebody's head off. Everything is implied the way he kills people, but there's not
Yeah.
blood.
Because you got to save something, you know. If you just go all out from the beginning of the movie, then it's like it loses its pizzazz. You know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because once you you show something extremely gory and everything, that's like everything else is gonna, lack and it's like if you're doing an action movie, the biggest explosion in the movie should be at the end of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, or a comic. The biggest fight should be at the end of the comic, or what I
Yeah.
mean. So, yeah, but some of these movies that people think are, oh god, they're horrifying. It's like I've watched them. There's no blood. Texas Chainsaws, no, and it's not a true story. That was all bullshit.
Because
Toby
you want to, it's marketing.
lied. He just lied, to generate interest, and just like
Yeah.
the guys who made Fargo, that was a lie. The whole thing was just made up.
So I guess he didn't put any blood in the first movie and didn't had very very uh the level of language was there's no explicit language in it because they were trying really hard to get a PG rating,
It
and
was,
that the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he was trying to get a PG rating.
yeah,
It did not happen.
no, it didn't happen. But it really is not.
It was rated X apparently.
If you watch it,
So
you're gonna be like, "Where's why?" I mean, the idea is scary. It's based on Ed Gein, the serial killer from Wisconsin in the 50s. It's based on him, much like Silence of the Lambs is based on him. Much like, God, there's fuck. It's like Ed Gein just launched a million fucking horror movies. It's amazing what this guy did. Um, but as far as actual grotesqueness compared to something like Terrifier or the Hostel movies or the Saw movies, it's a walk in the
mhm.
park, man. It's a walk in the park.
Yep, just goes to show though, it's not all about the blood, you
No,
know.
I mean Raimi went that way, but he did it in a funny way. He did it like so over the top, it was ridiculous. And then Peter Jackson followed suit because that's where Peter Jackson got his start was schlock. I mean, he had one movie where a guy put a lawnmower on his chest and started up and started running into zombies. Imagine what that looks
Oh
like.
my god.
Yeah, I think it was Dead Alive. Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings director. If you look at his very early work, it was very rainy, schlocky, fucking horror. I mean, it was sick. It was sick to the point it was hilarious. I mean, he was doing Raimi. He was literally like, "Oh, Raimi's doing. I'm doing it." That's why
So if
I couldn't believe he was selected to do Lord of the Rings. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what the fuck are they doing with this guy? Lord of the Rings? Holy God. He's just, I mean, because I looked at it. The only major movie he did before then was The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox, which wasn't a bad film, and it was tasteful. But before then, almost all of his movies were the most distasteful shit you'd never want to show your parents, ever. It was disgusting, and it was hilarious, and it was great. But Lord of the Rings? Are you fucking kidding me? And then he
and
nailed it. Good for
nailed
him.
it.
I mean,
So if you were to recommend, to send this off, if you were to recommend one horror movie and preferably one that most people wouldn't have seen, because otherwise if you're telling people to watch like Scream or something like that, then people, a lot of people have seen that, but like if you're going to recommend one horror movie, what would it be?
well, Trick or Treat is probably in pretty serious rotation. They show it on TV right now. That's a really good question. I would say, you know what? I'm going to throw one out there, and this is one that was panned when I was growing up because I'm going to say Halloween 3. because this
Okay.
movie does not feature Michael Myers. It doesn't feature it, and that's why it was panned. But this movie is actually based on Halloween, and it's a really cool story and a really cool premise. And it's got this fucking song that will stick in your head for the rest of your life. 8 more days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 8 more days till Halloween, Silver Shamrock. And yeah, it'll stick in your head. But here's the thing, it has nothing to do with the previous Halloween movies. And that's why everybody hated it. That's the only reason why. They didn't watch it because it is a movie based on Halloween. It's got a lot of witchcraft or, pagan stuff in it. I'm not going to spoil it by a
Okay,
corporation.
so you definitely don't need to watch the first two to watch it.
No, no, it's a completely different story with different characters. It has nothing to do with Michael Myers. And it's called Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Now, if they just called it Season of the Witch or Halloween Season of the Witch, I think it would have been received a hell of a lot better. But it never
Okay, so not to
was.
be confused with, there's another one that's Halloween 3. This is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Yeah, well, that's what. When people saw Halloween 3, they thought it was the third installment of the Michael Myers. And when it didn't have him, they got pissed off, and everybody told me to stop. What? Don't watch it. So I rented it in the freaking 90s just to see for myself. You know how people shit on things, and then you get to a point where it's like, okay, I want to see for myself. Is this really intense?
Yeah.
And I watched it myself and said, this is a great Halloween movie. This is actually about Halloween. How about that? The other
Right?
ones really weren't. This is about the holiday of Halloween. Um, so many people got turned off of that. I got turned off of it. I watched it. I love it. It's great. So I would say check out Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, man. And yeah, the effects and it's got the camp of the 80s, but it's probably a lot of movie people rejected or didn't even try because it got shit on so hard. If you can look at the IMDb and stuff like that, it's actually a much better movie than people give it credit for.
Okay. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Yeah, check it
All
out.
right.
If you're into the season of Halloween, uh, it's definitely otherwise trick or treat. Uh, Also about Halloween.
Well, on that note, that'll do it for us tonight. Have a happy Halloween. And see you next time.
Okay, and yes, everybody have a safe and happy Halloween. And should we do do you have an outro or?
Oh, yeah, no, I got it.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah, I got it.
Definitely
Happy
check out
Halloween.
definitely check out shattermarecomics.com for your issues of Hardly Heroes and to get on the mailing list of Mercenary Guild, which is a dark fantasy comic. First issue is coming out shortly. It's a 3-volume series, and again, it'll suit your fantasy needs if you're into Dungeons and Dragons or Lord of the Rings or Conan or anything like that. I think this should scratch that itch.
Yeah, if in any case you got here and are watching this and for some reason haven't bought our stuff, buy our stuff. And then next Halloween, dress up as our characters for Halloween. All right. See you guys next week. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, folks. Hello, I'm William, the author and creator of Mercenary Guild, the kick-ass new 3-part dark fantasy comic by Shattermare Comics. We're very excited to bring you titles like Mercenary Guild and the new groundbreaking horror sci-fi graphic novel, Victor. For the email newsletter, please sign up at shattermarecomics.com and receive exclusives upon each launch. Then check out the latest issue of Hardly Heroes. Don't forget to grab the physical copy of Lucas the Mucus, written by the great TFM. Oh, and we have anime titties as well. Thanks again.